What is up guys, Rickackis here, and it's been over a month since the Taken King expansion was released for Destiny. Now this expansion came with a lot of controversy, mainly because of its hefty price tag of $40. Now I actually made a video that came out before the Taken King released, going over the benefits of the Taken King, what was being offered, what Bungie said was being offered, and whether or not it was worth buying. Now in that video I came to the conclusion that if you are a Destiny player, if you enjoy Destiny, the Taken King is definitely worth that $40 price tag. It simply adds so much content to the game. However, after the release of the Taken King and after some time to play all the content that it has offered, again, we're going to go over whether or not that statement still holds true, whether or not the Taken King is still worth it. Now, one of the most interesting aspects about the Taken King is that content is still being rolled out to the Destiny public. In fact, the day that this video is going to go live, the hard mode of the King's Fall raid has just been made available. Now, that's very interesting because this theme of releasing stuff after the actual release date has been carried over and has been utilized in other ways as well. Most notably with exotic weapons. After the Taken King released, certain exotic weapons like the Sleeper Simulant and very recently the No Time to Explain were not available at all. And as the time went on, Bungie just decided randomly, essentially one day, to finally make the quest lines that you eventually acquire these exotic weapons available to the public. Now I want to be clear, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, and people look at this differently. For one, it certainly alleviates some of the stress and overwhelming nature of a massive DLC like this when things are kind of broken down over a long period of time. If everything was available that one day, on release day, you could do the Sleeper Sim quest, you could do the No Time to Explain quest, a lot of people would have been, again, kind of overwhelmed by that much content, and now when you're playing the game a lot after, a month or more later, after the DLC came out, you kind of don't really have anything to do. Whereas time-gating some of these things, time-gating the No Time to Explain, is going to make everyone hop back on the game and continue having a reason to play Destiny. On the other hand, time-gating is generally looked down upon because many people believe that, you paid for that content, especially in the case of the Sleeper Simulant, where gameplay of it was actually shown via Game Informer. Like, they showed off the gun, they said, look at how cool this gun is. To get it, you better buy the Taken King, and there was no mention whatsoever that you won't actually get what you pay for until someone at Bungie actually decides to finally make the quest available. Now in that aspect, it's definitely a negative thing. So in that respect, the Taken King was really only worth $30 upon its release, and we're just slowly getting the other $10 when Bungie decides they're gonna release the content. Something like the hard mode raid especially, there's no reason this raid hasn't come out yet other than simply to delay the stream of content. Bungie keeps saying that it did the hard mode raid first and then scaled the mechanics back for the normal mode. So what you're saying is the hard mode has been ready to go for a very long time. But then again, I'm going to play devil's advocate because for many players, they're just going to be overwhelmed by too much content if everything came out at once. People have jobs, people have lives, they can't all be playing Destiny for 8 hours a day accomplishing everything at once. So releasing content over a long period of time is going to allow players to get accumulated and get ready for that content as it arrives. Now moving on, when assessing the Taken King, we have to take into account what the main benefits of buying the Taken King were. And definitely the thing that I said was the main benefit, the thing that really persuaded me to say that the Taken King was worth buying, was the gun diversity that was coming out with the Taken King with the Foundry system. The three Foundries, Haka, Suros, and Omolon, were supposed to differentiate the loot within the game each one acting differently from the other ones and really make it so that, again, you just have a lot more gun diversity. Whereas before there was a lot of copy and pasted weapons, and so, you know, you have a pulse rifle and it's basically exactly the same as another pulse rifle, like -3 rounds in a magazine. That's what Destiny was really turning into. But the Foundry system was supposed to solve this. Well, did it? To answer that question, I think that overall it did. I think the Foundry system was a success. It was a huge step forward, but it's by no means finished. And the main concern I have with the Foundry system after actually being able to utilize it and play with it is that the differentiation simply isn't enough. And I think where it falls short is definitely the perk system. The perk system in Destiny is kind of broken, and it's something that absolutely no one talks about because I guarantee you guys probably haven't really thought about it. But if you think about the perk system in Destiny, let's just take pulse rifles in an example. So a pulse rifle in Destiny, when you're getting a pulse rifle and it's randomly rolled perks, what are you looking for? The main answer is going to be basically the same things every time. If you get a pulse rifle and you're looking at the perks, you're going to want stuff like head seeker, full auto, and then stability increases. And although some pulse rifles, in fact the really good pulse rifles, already come with high stability, so you can mess around with the perks a little bit more, they can be a little bit looser, again, most of the time, you're looking for those same few perks. And the problem with the perk system is that when you make a perk as powerful and as effective as Head Seeker, where damage body shots make it so that your headshots do more damage, and that's going to really help keep up your time to kill both in the Crucible and in PvE and just equate to more damage output. Again, a perk that good compared to other perks like Battle Runner, Enhanced Radar, Last Resort. Those perks are absolute shat, and I don't know why Bungie keeps rolling out these crap perks that just don't compete with the few good vanilla Destiny, usually, perks within the game. Again, when you're looking for a pulse rifle, when you're looking for a sniper rifle, you're looking for the same perks every time. For sniper rifles, again, you're looking for Hidden Hand basically every time. And so the problem with the perk system is that there simply isn't that much differentiation between guns because everyone is kind of looking for the same role. Now, of course, they're not looking for the exact same role, and there's definitely some play within guns, but I shouldn't be able to show you guys a role and say, you know, how good is this role, and everyone agrees. Do you know what I mean? People should kind of disagree. You should be able to have kind of different builds within a gun type, but again, and if you guys have played Destiny, you know this, that really isn't just the case. You're looking for the same few small subset of perks within the game every time. And that makes it so that the Foundry system, although they have different perk layouts, which is a great idea, it doesn't create that much differentiation. Because if you have a Haka pulse rifle and you have a Suros pulse rifle, you're looking for kind of the same perks on both of them. In fact, aside from the perk layouts, which admittedly is a large factor within the favor of Foundries, and the look of the different Foundry weapons, there really isn't too much differentiation between the Foundries. If you actually think about the guns, I really do like the sights especially. I'm going to say the fact that each one can get different optics is awesome. However, again, looking at the guns, like looking at Haka especially, Haka, Bungie kept saying that Haka was supposed to emphasize damage. Where in the world does it emphasize damage? Because it frankly does not. Aside from pulse rifles shooting one extra burst, a Haka assault rifle is exactly the same as a Suros assault rifle. Again, it's exactly the same. Down to the damage and the rate of fire, they again keep copying and pasting these two factors when making different weapons. So you don't have that much differentiation between the Foundries in how the gun actually just behaves at a base level. And this is definitely a downside. Now what Bungie needs to do to fix this is to actually have unique gun types differentiated by these different foundries. If you have a Haka assault rifle, it should actually do more damage. And to compensate, just make it have, not the greatest rate of fire maybe, but let's mess around, hey Bungie, let's mess around with something other than just rate of fire and impact. How about it has a substantial recoil or a really low magazine but has more damage to balance it out? Another great idea would be to make each foundry capable of having its own unique perks. Haka pulse rifles can spawn with a perk that makes it so that, the first shot does more damage, but the last shot does less damage, or just something like that, where only Haka pulse rifles can get this. And Suros has the same. Only Suros assault rifles can get, another different perk. So that way you have, again, a lot more differentiation between the foundries where different weapons actually feel different within the different foundries. They don't just look different. With all that said and done, I want to reiterate what I said at the beginning when I started talking about Foundries, that Foundries as a whole were a huge step forward to Destiny. They are a massively positive thing. I am totally in favor of them, but again, they can simply be improved. And I think how Bungie described how each foundry would be differentiated from each other, as I just, talked about, that didn't really pan out. That wasn't really the case. They are different, but not as much different as we were led to believe. Now the next huge factor of the Taken King that was, again, one of the main reasons, one of the catalysts behind why people purchased this DLC was the story and the content. Did these things pan out? Was there enough of an increase to the story mode and to the content to again warrant this $40 price tag? Well, let's talk about story firstly. Now, I think almost everyone would agree with me when I say that the story in the Taken King was so much better than the story in the vanilla Destiny and frankly all the DLCs up to that point combined. The story in the Taken King was enjoyable. You understood kind of what was going on. It had memorable characters, especially in Cade 6, and it just really was a massive improvement over the original Destiny game. It turns out Bungie actually listened. Hey, we want to know what's going on. They had exposition at the front of each mission where, if it wasn't Cade, it was other, like Zavala, explaining what was going on, why you were doing certain things, and that really helped in making the Taken King story enjoyable. With that being said, again, it wasn't perfect, and although it was a massive improvement over the vanilla Destiny story, the vanilla Destiny story was absolutely terrible. It basically didn't exist. And so to say it's a massive improvement, it's a massive improvement over one of the worst stories we've ever seen out of gaming, period. So instead of comparing the Taken King story with just Destiny itself, if you compare it to another video game like Mass Effect, which puts a huge emphasis on its story, I think then you can see that the Taken King story, although it was enjoyable, it again didn't hold a candle to something like Mass Effect. The characters, there was really only one good and memorable character, and it was Cade 6. Zavala got really no playtime, Ikora didn't really, the Shipwright didn't, Eris didn't, Your Guardian didn't. It was just Cade 6 is awesome, the game. And that's what the story kind of boiled down to. And again, it was a massive improvement. I don't want you guys to think I'm just completely shitting on the story, but it's a massive improvement because we're used to a terrible story. We can always still be asking for more, and there was a lot of times within the story, especially the opening cinematic, that you were still just kind of lost. You're like, wait, why are we doing this? What's going on? Who is this? What's the deal with the Taken? There was a lot of stuff that is still left very vaguely explained. I also thought it was very poor on Bungie's part that they had zero lore and discussion with you and your ghost or anyone else when doing the time-gated content. When you were doing the Sleeper Simulant, your ghost didn't say anything. That would have been a perfect opportunity to learn more about Rasputin, which is arguably such an interesting character, but instead they had basically zero story inclusion in the time-gated content, which was very disappointing. Now, where I still have gripes in story, I have zero gripes in content. There truly was a massive amount of content added with the Taken King. There is so many different quest lines and missions. I haven't even done all of the quest lines in the game. And although some quest lines still take you to familiar territory and the missions have you play in areas that you've already kind of played in before, and then maybe in the very end of the mission you'll go to a new place, for the majority of the experience it feels fresh and new. And again, I haven't even gotten to all of the content. So the content add in terms of missions, in terms of weapons, armor, all of that stuff is excellent. And with the whole time-gated shenanigans, we're just going to be getting even more content as time goes on. So was the Taken King worth it? Well, although there is certainly some things that can be improved upon, and a lot of the content that was promised just didn't pan out. Iron Banner, definitely for one, that was an absolute disaster, and that was one of the things that, hey, Iron Banner is overhauled, we have all new loot, it's all coming with the Taken King, and it was an absolute disaster. And Trials of Osiris isn't even here yet, it had to be delayed because of a glitch. But with that all being said, looking at how much enjoyment I got and how much content I got out of the Taken King, and again, although there are some gripes, although things can always be improved, the majority of my experience with the Taken King has all been positive. I still have things to do, and that is the main reason why I'm going to say that yes, the Taken King is still worth it a month after its release, and I hope that it still remains to be worth it as time goes on. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to rate and share it. It really helps me out. And if you enjoyed this Destiny content, want to see more content like this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button down below. Now, in the corner, you can see 2 more videos that I've selected that you may enjoy. Click those. Those are going to open new windows that you can watch those videos at your own free time. And if you want to get in touch with me and stay up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter. That's linked in the description below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can follow as well. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.